Walmart Hotline, what is your emergency?
Why is arsenic deadly, but only in large doses?
Yeah, sure. So this is a little bit of a complicated question. Some things are deadly perhaps for like a very specific reason, like maybe certain poisons might just do one specific thing to you. Arsenic really messes with a lot of the different metabolic pathways that your cells use, and then just different things inside of your body. So there's a particular kind of metabolism that your cell does, and a particular enzyme used in that metabolism. It's a little complicated, so I won't get into it, but arsenic can bind to that enzyme and actually inhibit that process. And if your cells realize that process has been inhibited, those cells will trigger what's called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. And cell death is natural. Your body is normally going through a process where it's culling old cells, and cells that have lived for a long time often go through natural programmed cell death, but arsenic can speed up that process. Arsenic can increase the amount of lactic acid through metabolic pathways, but arsenic can sort of force your body to increase the amount of lactic acid it produces, which can lead to lactic acidosis, which is basically too much lactic acid poisoning from lactic acid. It can disrupt potassium channels. Potassium channels that's referring to the idea that in your neural pathways, the sort of electrical signals that communicate between different information between your brain and different parts of your body. Those electrical signals are generated by what are called potassium-sodium channels, and that arsenic can disrupt those pathways and thereby disrupt your body's ability to signal. And it can also have an impact on cardiovascular health, and can increase like platelet accumulation, something that can cause heart attacks. So there's a lot of kind of nasty things that arsenic can do, and it can affect your body in a lot of different ways. The question sort of asked, why is it only lethal in large doses? And that just has to do with the idea that small quantities of arsenic, while still disturbing to the system, aren't enough to shut down an entire grown human. I was reading that it would take 60,000 parts per billion pieces of arsenic in, let's say, a liquid that you drank in order to kill you. And that's about 10,000 times higher than the level found in 80% of all drinking water in the United States. Arsenic is a really common compound, though. It's not necessarily a rare thing. It's found in lots of different geologic deposits. And for that reason, it can be found in lots of different soils. And if you're growing plants for consumption in those soils, arsenic can be taken up by those plants. And that's one way that people can experience at least light arsenic poisoning. There's a concept in toxicology called the LD50, actually. And I was gonna, if we could jump to my screen really fast, I was just gonna mention this idea briefly. So lots of things, and I might even go so far as to say everything is toxic at some level. There's nothing that your body can just take unlimited amounts of. Water, if you take pure water and you drink enough of it, you will kill yourself. It's very hard to do that because your body will reject it, but there are cases of people doing that to themselves. You can give yourself a form of dehydration that results from not having enough electrolytes in your system. But as we look through this kind of list here, you can see here, so the first one listed is aspirin, and it says over here that the LD50 is 200 milligrams per kilogram, kilogram referring to the body weight of the animal, and this is for a rat taken orally. And the LD50, what it is it means that it's a lethal dose. 200 milligrams in this case would be a lethal dose 50% of the time for this type of a creature. Now, 200 milligrams, that's a rat, not a human. You'd need much more aspirin to kill a human. Down here, we can see arsenic. I'll just highlight it on this table. Oops. And there's lots of different forms that arsenic can take, but the LD50 for a rat, again, is 15 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. And so it takes a significant amount, let's say, of, you can see right down here, glucose is listed as toxic. Glucose is sugar, essentially. Glucose is listed as toxic at 30 grams per kilogram. That's much more than 15 grams, but even sugar, even something that we would think of as just being this like food that I eat, that can be toxic too. So arsenic is particularly damaging, so even small amounts of arsenic can have negative effects, like arsenic can give you stomach cramps, arsenic poisoning can give you stomach cramps, can irritate your intestinal lining, can give you fatigue, and can even cause heart problems at low levels. It could result in maybe other problems that you have. But arsenic itself will only kill you if you get a really significant amount in, and it's an amount that in the United States we don't really use much arsenic for almost anything because we know that it's fairly poisonous. It is used in preserving wood, but that's not something, unless you're like eating furniture, you're probably all set. So don't be scared of arsenic. But also I would just mention, and I won't get into this, but arsenic has a really interesting history as a poison. It's a common material, again. It can be found fairly easily. When converted into a poison or when converted into a powder, arsenic is odorless, tasteless, and it's usually a white powder, so it doesn't really have any kind of a visual appearance. So it's kind of like iocane powder if you've seen The Princess Bride. You know, for that reason, it's a great poison if you're trying to kill somebody. Not that I recommend it, but looking into the history of it is fascinating. And pure arsenic was, I think, in the year 1200 or something like that. Pure arsenic was actually synthesized, and people have been using it for millennia to kill each other. So, long and storied history. If you're interested in that, you should look into it.